Absolutely. So let me just highlight two things before I pass the mic to Dr. Frazier. First, you heard Dr. Carter talk about how he encourages his students to use and experiment with these tools. That's a very different posture than we see in a lot of school and university settings where it's real Chicken Little. Oh my God, the students are cheating. We're going to come back to that. You also heard him talk about creating videos for church. The church multimedia ministry can look a whole lot different now. And we're going to come into that in a minute too. But Dr. Frazier, let's just like we had Dr. C open up with some of his general thoughts about these AI and tech and creativity questions, let's hear you on that same thing, and then we'll start to dig in.
So Brian said I might not totally agree, and yes and no, right? As definitely as Dr. Banks knows, I'm a straight up Trekkie, so live long and prosper.
LOAP.
Okay, and so from the outset, right, I see technology in this sort of sci-fi world of humanity and humaneness and possibility. Mm-hmm. And so part of my attraction to AI is what Dr. Carter has pointed out, is the ability to democratize, right, to give broad access to people without having to pay for all of the computers and the technology and all the costs that are associated with that. But I also come from it as a public historian, as an oral historian, and particularly with a focus on ethics. Mm-hmm. And there are ethical issues and questions that emerge from AI that can create both incredibly beautiful moments and very uncomfortable moments.
That's right.
So when you think about, for example, some of the more recent pieces I've sent and shared was a piece that was on Instagram. And a young man used AI to create a heaven. And in the heaven, the image opens up, and Martin Luther King is leaning over a beautiful flower garden and is smelling the flowers. And Prince is sitting in a flower, in a field of purple flowers. Yes, and all of these figures who, when they died, it just like killed you. You felt the loss. And then to see this it was just beautiful representation, right? And you get into these questions, is this art?
Right.
Can we call it art? Right? And if the computer is being the one driving it, or is the person not an artist but a good writer? Because as Professor Carter said, you just put the prompt, right? I think I want purple flowers, you do the rest, right? And so the question about, is that really creativity if you just tell it, just do this and I'll come back later, right? There's some real questions about the degree to which we have an experience where the human experience is meeting the technological experience, and is a joint process. And my concern is that with people who are, especially in a capitalist society, who are corrupt, who are lazy, let's just call it what it is, these become instruments for money making, for disinformation and misinformation, and it allows people to kind of take credit for other people's work.
Absolutely. So I think we need to spend some significant time on these ethics questions, and we're going to get there. But to string together what we've heard in our two opening comments, I want to talk about this question of what actually constitutes creativity when people are using these tools and systems, right? So anybody can put a prompt into a generative tool and get output. But one way of looking at this is that when you're informed by your particular experiences, check out these wonderful people coming in. I know y'all. Hey. What's up, family? So if we all were to get the same assignment, just playfully, and use the same, quote, AI tool, we all would end up with very different results because your experiences will lead you to prompt the tool in a different way than mine. in a different way than Antonesia's, right? The things that you're concerned about will lead you to put different prompts in than Vish would, right? So, two-part question here. What constitutes creativity when we're using these tools? And what can happen when we fully bring the culture to the technology? I'll give you an example of what I mean. So I teach a course called Remix, Writing and Reading DJ Cultures. And last year for that mini course, I had Davey D, hip-hop legendary DJ, come out to talk to the students about AI. And he said, look, my prompts are my intellectual property.
That's good.
And so we're going to play with this a little bit, right? Because when he came to talk to the babies, he wasn't talking about using AI for music, even though he's a DJ. He talked about using it for visual art. And he said, look, you can't create what I create because of everything from the culture and everything from my own experience that I'm going to bring to the prompt. So what constitutes creativity? And what can happen when we fully bring the range of the beauty and possibility in the culture to these tools?
Well, I think that's a double-edged sword, because when you think about creativity, you can talk about creativity in writing a prompt, which is one thing, and how creative you are in crafting your words, and how masterful you are at putting together some beautiful descriptions of a landscape or of people or whatever that happens to be. But there's also the creativity, I think, on the other side, when you think about maybe the technological creativity.
Yes.
So what if I have some computer scientists in my class, and they may not necessarily be the best writers, or they may not necessarily be the best ones that can describe a scene or a person or anything as descriptively as someone else, but they might know about seeding. Or they might know, and these are weights that you place on how accurately the AI follows your prompt, or how much creativity you give the AI in doing whatever it wants to do based on the model that it was trained upon. And so if a computer scientist knows that part of the crafting of a prompt, then what's to say that that's not being creative?
Right.
And so when I think about creativity, I think about when you talk about AI, you just can't talk about what the output of that is.
Right.
You have to talk about the input, not just the prompt, but also the input with regards to everything else
Right.
that goes into how that AI decides what it's ultimately going to output. And that's all based on the training. It's all based on the weight that you place on that training, and a whole lot of other parameters that I don't even understand, that we don't understand, because we don't know how some of these models are even trained.
That part.
Right? So it's all in a cloud of dust in many respects with regards to how these models are trained and how you get that particular output.
I'm calling BS right now. Y'all killing me. Stop it. Right? One, you can claim that this is your creative output, but the truth of the matter is that your creative output is a compilation of many things. Right? There's a collectivizing that happens under AI that we need to recognize. And the collectivizing is not just how you put it in, but the fact of the matter is most of these corporations and companies are taking what you produce and they're keeping it and then reproducing it. So what you have is a circumstance where your creativity, your output is being taken then being reutilized. And what you may think is your creativity at work is actually a compilation of other people's creative activity that is also at work. Now, am I throwing out the baby with the bathwater?
Yeah.
No, I am not. Right? I do believe you
The
can.
bathtub, the bath water, the bathroom sink, and the baby.
The whole
We have to be
bathroom.
honest about what it is that we're dealing with.
Right.
And that it is possible to, I mean, like that piece about what the young man created, which I'm just so fascinated by, of the different people who passed away and the flowers of, as they say, the church, my God has many, houses, all the kind of things that they create. It is art. You cannot tell me it is not art. You cannot tell me it's not beautiful. You cannot tell me it is not creative output.
Right.
But I also know that creative output is coming from a collective experience and
That's
a collectivizing that then is recreated within the AI. So we have to think diligently about what does it mean, right, to be creative. I'm
Uh-oh.
sorry.
Microphone check.
I can be loud.
Right, little help. I know that may not work for the recording,
Right.
but
I'll
you
try
know,
to be loud.
yeah, we were raised to be able to project.
Real
So let's
loud.
go.
Yeah. So, I think we just need to be careful about thinking that just because the human experience is involved, that automatically it represents creativity.
Yeah.